What's up, dog trainers? It's Elijah, and in this video, I'm gonna share with you how one of our dog training clients turned 35K into 391K. So let's get into it. All right, now before we go any further, I wanna actually show you guys some proof that these are real numbers and I'm not just making things up. So here we are in our client's Google Ads account, and you can see we are looking at an all-time timeline here. All right, and you can see right here that 34.9K has been spent in about a little over 2 years, so 2 years and a couple months. And just so you don't think this is a screenshot, let me go ahead and show you today's metrics. So here's what we're looking at today so far. Here's the last 14 days, all right? And here's the last 30 days. And here is the all-time timeline. So this client spent around 34.9K, and now let's go ahead and look at the revenue he's generated. All right, so here you can see at the top of this new client column here that he has generated 391K from 134 clients. All right, and so you can see here the leads names, and you can see the source of the leads in addition to the revenue that was generated from this lead. And if I go ahead and scroll down, you'll just see ton of leads here that were closed and converted to clients. And so we're not making this up. These are real numbers. This client spent around 35K and has turned that 35K into 391K. And just to be clear, this is only from Google Ads. This doesn't include Facebook ads or the revenue he's generating from his website and other organic channels. So this is only from Google Ads. All right, now that we got the proof out of the way, let's go ahead and dive into the video. All right, so here's what we're gonna cover in today's video. The first thing is foundations. Then we're gonna dive into systems thinking. Then we're gonna dive into quality, lead management, and finally, skin in the game. The first thing is foundations. So paid ads can act like rocket fuel for your business, but can also amplify any cracks that currently exist in it, turning small problems into major ones. So to ensure you don't implode your business, here's a few key foundational conditions and qualities that I've identified across 40 plus successful dog trainers that we've worked with. And the first thing is simply just having a determination to grow, because you are going to face new problems as your business grows. And you must be able to stay focused with an I'll figure it out attitude along the way. Treat problems as opportunities for growth, because that's exactly what they are. So as your business grows, you're gonna face problems that you've never faced before. And those who are actually determined to grow their business have an attitude of, okay, well, I'll figure it out. And they keep moving and they figure out the problem and move on to the next thing. If you don't have that ability, you are going to fail before things actually get good. So it's very important that you have a determination to grow your business. Okay, don't quit when things get hard. The next thing is these clients have a willingness to invest. So you must be willing to invest at least $1,000 to $3,000 per month toward paid ads. Otherwise, your results will be slow and inconsistent. If you've never spent money to acquire a client, this will feel uncomfortable as it should. This is what growth feels like. All right, now this is an important message here. So paid ads should not make your business. They should only enhance what's already proven to work. Get to a consistent 8 to 10K per month before considering paid ads. So if you're used to all of your clients being from word of mouth and referrals, then you're used to getting free clients and your margins are probably pretty high in your business. But as soon as you have to spend $2,000 or $3,000 a month and actually start paying a couple $100s to acquire a client, that can feel a bit uncomfortable, as it should. That's what growth feels like. And so don't be scared to invest in your business. Leverage the money that you have to grow your business faster and take it further. With that said, if you're only making $3K a month in your dog training business right now, you really haven't earned the right to run ads quite yet. You probably still have some work you have to do on your service delivery, on your sales skills, on your pricing. And until you get to around 8 to 10K a month organically, you shouldn't consider paid ads. So go ahead and get to 8 to 10K a month organically. And then once you've done that, you've gotten to a point where you've proven that you know what you're doing, you can make sales, your service is good, and then consider paid ads. But again, paid ads should not make your business. They should only enhance what's already proven to work. And the next thing we have here is a capacity to grow. So if you're only making 5K a month right now, or maybe you're at 8 to 10K a month already and you're feeling burnt out, paid ads will only make things worse. Again, just to kind of go back to what I said here, paid ads can act like rocket fuel for your business, but can also amplify any cracks that currently exist in it, turning small problems into major ones. And so if you go to run paid ads and you start getting a bunch of leads and you start to get a bunch of clients, but you don't have the capacity to take on these leads and take on these clients, then you're gonna implode your business and you're gonna fail with paid ads. So make sure before you run paid ads that you actually have the capacity to take on more clients. And then pricing. So the trainers who get the best results from our program are typically charging anywhere between $1,500 to $5,000. All right, now you can get away with $1,000 programs or even $900 programs, but just be aware that when you're running paid ads, it's going to cost you anywhere from $150 to upwards of $500 to acquire a client. And so if you're only charging $750 and you have to pay $300 to acquire the client, that only leaves you with $450 in gross margins, and that doesn't include all the other fees or rather expenses you probably have in your business. So you can see how there's not much meat left on the bone if you're charging anything less than $1,000 for a client that costs you a few hundred to acquire. So $1,500 to $5,000 is really like the sweet spot that we see for a lot of our clients who get the most success from paid ads and from working with us. So that's pricing. And then we have ad spend. So in this example that I've shared with you with the $35K spend that the client flipped into $391K, he's spending roughly around $60 per day on ads. I always suggest a minimum of $30 to $50 per day. So anywhere from $1,000 to $3,000 per month is recommended for paid ads. I would suggest no less than $1,000 per month. So there's ad spend, and then we have population size. So in this example, this client has a population size of around 800,000 where he lives. I always suggest a minimum of 100,000 or more in population size, because once you start getting beneath 100,000, for example, if you only have 25,000 people in your area, your paid ads are not going to deliver enough volume to actually be meaningful in your business. And so I really suggest at least 100,000 people or more. So that's foundations. And with these, let me go ahead and zoom out so you can see this here. With these foundations in place, you can't lose, all right? Of course, results aren't guaranteed, but with these foundations in place, it's gonna be very hard for you to fail with paid ads. Sorry to interrupt your video. Give me 15 seconds, we'll get right back to it. If you didn't know already, I own a marketing agency. We work exclusively with dog trainers to help them get more clients, and we've generated millions of dollars in new revenue for dog trainers. So if you wanna consider working with us, go ahead and click the link below and we'll see if we're a good fit. Let's get back to the video. So now let's dive into systems thinking. So to understand how this client turned 35K into 391K, we have to know what's happening from click to close. Now, I know right here it says 34K into 363K, and that's because I created this deck a couple weeks ago. And since then, this client has spent more money on paid ads and has made more money from paid ads, which is why there's a bit of a discrepancy there, but you get the point. So to know how to turn $1 into 10, you have to realize that there's a series of events that must take place. And each one of these events should be optimized, because if one of these events in your sales process is broken, then it affects everything downstream and can completely ruin your results. So that's kind of what systems thinking is about. So let's go ahead and dive into that. All right, so in order for you to get a client, you first have to get traffic. And this can be in the form of, paid ads. This could be in the form of social media. This could be in the form of referrals. You have to get eyeballs on your business, right? But just getting eyeballs is not enough. You actually have to be able to convert those eyeballs into interested leads. And so you have to get traffic, then you have to be able to turn that traffic into leads. But just getting leads is not enough, because you can get all the leads in the world, but if they don't convert into clients, then it doesn't matter how many leads you get. So you have to turn traffic into leads, and then you have to be able to get in contact with those leads. You have to be able to speak with those leads. And then once you get in contact with those leads, you have to be able to book an evaluation. And then once you do the eval, you have to be able to close them and turn them into a client, right? And every one of these stages is essential, because you can get all the traffic and you can get all the leads and you can get in contact with all those leads. But if none of those leads are booking an eval or showing up to the eval, then you're dead in the water. You're not going to get any new clients. And you can even book a ton of evals. But if half of the people don't show, and then those who do show, you're not able to close, then they're never going to become clients. What a lot of people will do is run paid ads and not be profitable and blame the paid ads for the reason that they're not profitable. But then if you look into their account, you'll realize that they're taking 3 days to call every lead back. And so It's not that the paid ads are the problem, it's that you're taking 3 days to call these leads back. And so you have a major bottleneck in the contact stage here. The key is to have every one of these stages optimized. And so the objective of each event is to get the prospect to move to the next, with each event being reliant on the previous one, right? So in order for you to get a client, you have to make sure the eval goes well. In order for you to have a good eval, you have to be able to get in contact with that client and set expectations for the eval and schedule a date for it, right? But in order for you to get in contact with that client, you have to have a lead in the first place. And in order for you to have a lead, you have to get traffic, right? And so each one of these events is reliant on the previous one. So you want to make sure every event is optimized so that this system flows smoothly throughout. The next thing we have here is quality. Generally speaking, there is 2 types of leads. You are going to have low quality leads and you're going to have high quality leads. These leads exist on a continuum. So here's a diagram that kind of illustrates this point. Let me zoom in a bit more so you can see it. So you'll see here that we have this continuum, and on one half is low quality leads and on the other half is high quality leads, right? But not every lead is created equal, whether it's a low or a high quality lead. So you'll see here, everything in the red represents low quality leads who will never buy. And these could be leads who simply just are looking for freebies, who might be out of your service area, who may have given you a bad phone number in the lead form so you can't even get in contact with them. There's a portion of low quality leads who will simply just never buy. And that's what this red color represents here in the low quality lead half of the continuum. And then here in the yellow, we have low quality leads who may convert into clients, but will be a headache of a client and a headache of a lead, meaning you'll get this lead and this lead doesn't have a big budget. They don't want to start training for another 3 months. They have a million questions, right? They're hard to get a hold of. And then once you do actually close them and turn them into a client, you realize that they are an absolute headache. They don't do the homework you assign to them. And then what happens is they leave you a bad review saying that your training doesn't work, when in reality, they're just not doing their part, right? And so that's what this yellow portion represents. So you just never want to get low quality leads, right? The goal is always to get as many high quality leads as possible. And so on the other half, we have in the green here, we have the high quality leads. And there's 2 different shades of green. You'll see we have a light shade of green here and a darker shade, right? And this light shade of green represents great clients, or rather, high quality leads who will become great clients, but may require a bit of nurturing. A lot of the leads you talk to today might not convert for another 4 weeks or 2 months, and that's okay. Not every lead is going to be ready to just spend $3,000 right away, and that's totally fine. And so getting leads like this is fantastic. In fact, that's going to be a big portion of the leads that you get. And then you have, in the darker green here, you have the highest quality leads, the best ones that you can get, the ones that we all want, which are leads who are, who need training and are ready to spend money right now and get started as soon as possible. Now, the problem most people run into is leaning too far to one side, either chasing quantity and sacrificing quality, or chasing quality and sacrificing scale. Our goal is to attract as many high quality leads as possible, aka quality. So a big problem that most people run into, and if you've ever worked with an agency, you've probably ran into this yourself, is that a lot of people will look at lead costs as the North Star metric for how their ads are performing. But at the end of the day, lead cost doesn't mean anything compared to customer acquisition costs, right? For example, let's say you get a bunch of leads and they're only $5 each, and you're like, whoa, these ads are crushing it. I'm getting a ton of leads and they're only $5, but you realize that none of these leads are answering the phone, they're out of your service area, and they're not actually converting into paid clients. So you're just wasting a bunch of money. But then you have people who are on the other side of the spectrum where it's like they want the highest quality of leads, and that is it. They only want leads who are in this dark green area, leads who are ready to buy right now and spend $5,000 today. We all want leads like that in our business, but the problem is if you optimize only for this dark shade of green, you are going to constrict your ad performance, because this is such a small portion of the high quality lead pool that you will constrict your ad performance and overall not be nearly as profitable as you could be if you were tapping into this lighter green shade of leads who are still high quality, but maybe are not ready to buy today and might take a week or 2 or a month of nurturing, following up with that lead and checking in on them to actually convert them into a paid client. And so we never want to sway too much to either side of this continuum. We really want to try to capture every bit of green shade here. We want to get no low quality leads at all. We never want to get the yellow leads, and we never want to get the red leads. We want all the green leads we can get. And so how do we make sure that we're capturing as many high quality leads as possible? Well, the first thing we want to do is make sure that we are getting high quality traffic. So the platform we use for this client, which I've already revealed, is Google Ads. And that's simply because Google Ads attracts the highest quality leads. We're making sure that we're not using words like cheap or discount or affordable or free, anything that can attract a lower quality lead or someone who's just a tire kicker that's kind of shopping around. And this applies to the keywords we use. This applies to the headlines we use in the ads, the descriptions, text on the landing page, everything. So we're running Google Ads to get the leads, and we're making sure to avoid any words like cheap, discount, or affordable. The next thing we have is landing page. So we're attracting high quality leads from Google, but also on the landing page, we want to make sure that we're only attracting the leads we want and filtering out those we don't. For example, the landing page should be aligned with the type of clients you want to attract. This includes age, gender, location, etc. So if you know that most of your clients, or the best ones that you've worked with, are women between the age of 25 to 40 who want to be able to take their dog to public places like breweries or the park or downtown, right? Then you want to make sure your landing page reflects those kind of things. So that way it resonates with the people who you want to attract. You don't want to have images of old people sitting on the couch with their dog. So make sure your landing page aligns with the avatar that you want to attract. And we didn't show any pricing on this landing page for this client. People debate on whether or not you should show pricing. We've done it before. I've seen great results without showing pricing. I've seen great results with showing pricing. But ultimately, the reason I don't like to show it is because we don't want to undermine the value of our client's service before a lead ever gets to speak with them. So if a lead sees a price for $3,500, that's all they see. They don't know, the type of service you offer. They don't know if you've helped anyone who's dealt with a similar situation that they have. They don't know if you offer a guarantee. They don't know anything about you yet, and they are judging the quality of your service, or rather attaching a value to your service sheerly based off of the number that they see on your site, and not all the other things that justify the value and justify that price. And so I highly encourage you guys to not show prices when you're running paid ads, and instead get on the phone with that lead, talk with them, build rapport, share some stories about other clients that you've helped that have similar issues to this lead you're speaking with. And by the time you drop price, it will be much less severe to the lead who hears it. That is why we didn't show pricing on the landing page for this client. The next thing we have is creating friction on the form. And so these questions here actually are exactly the same questions that we had for this client on his form, on his opt-in form. And so we have basic questions: first name, last name, phone, email. And most people just stop here with these 4 questions, which is fine. But if you add a few more questions, you will typically get less leads the more questions you ask on the form, but you also tend to get higher quality leads. Now, again, we don't want to have too few questions, but we don't want to have too many questions. So it's about finding that sweet spot, right? And so just to summarize, we're using Google Ads to attract high quality leads who have intent behind their search. Our landing page is aligned with the avatar we want to attract. We don't show any pricing because we don't want to scare away people before we ever get a chance to actually demonstrate the value of our service. And then we have some friction on the form just to weed out any leads who aren't actually that serious. All right, the next thing we have here is lead management. So at this point, we've covered the foundations, we've covered systems thinking, and we've covered quality. So now we're getting leads who are of good quality, but that's not enough. You have to make sure you're actually managing these leads and working these leads. And just a quick side note here, if you've never ran paid ads before, do not expect these leads to be similar to what your word of mouth and referral leads are. Paid leads are a different animal. They don't know you yet, they don't trust you yet, and they're shopping around with 3 other trainers. Whereas a referral, they like you already, they trust you because their aunt told them how awesome you are, and it's very easy for you to close a referral or word of mouth lead than it is compared to a paid ad lead. So I want to make sure I set that expectation. So lead management, 80% of your results will be determined by these 2 factors. It's simple as this, okay? Contact your leads quickly and follow up with your leads persistently. If you just do these 2 things, this is where 80% of the results of your paid ads will come from. If you just do this, you're going to do well. So lead management. Now you can ignore this. This was from a previous slide that we just covered a minute ago. I forgot to remove it. It's fine. Lead management. So contacting leads quickly. So we leverage text automations that would instantly send personalized text to new leads as soon as they came in, then guide them towards self-scheduling a phone consultation with the trainer. And so you really want to make sure every time you get a lead that you are getting in contact with that lead as soon as possible. But of course, sometimes that's not always practical. You know, you're out training a dog, you're out driving, you're not always just staring at your phone waiting for a lead to come in. And so what we do is we created an automated greeting text that happens when a new lead comes in. So as soon as the lead comes in, within 2 minutes, they'll get an automated text, a personalized automated text using their dog's name, using their first name. And then in that text, we will include a calendar link where the lead can self-schedule a phone call with the trainer. And this is nice because then the trainer can be out doing his thing and just be able to check his phone and go, oh, cool, I have a call with so-and-so tomorrow at 1. And then those leads, of course, get confirmations and reminders leading up to that consultation. So that's how we make sure that leads are getting contacted quickly. And then we have following up persistently. So of course, not every lead is going to close on the first call, and that's expected. The worst mistake you can make is to sit around and wait for them to call you back. So if you talk with a lead who says they need to, talk with their wife or talk to their husband, but they love the program, don't just wait for that lead to call you back. Like proactively follow up with them. Hey Elijah, just check, hey Elijah, it's so-and-so, just checking in. You still need training for Murphy? Hey, did you get a chance to talk to your wife? How's it looking, right? Like follow up with your leads. You got to work these leads, okay? And so what we've done is created an automated follow-up sequence that would text these leads and guide them toward hopping on a call. And so basically what would happen is when my client would get a lead, he would talk with that lead. And if a lead needed to be called back, or if a lead ghosted this client, meaning they stopped responding, then my client within just a couple of clicks would put them into a nurture sequence. And what would happen is for the next 6 weeks, this lead will get a series of automated follow-up texts that are very simple and personalized to try and encourage them to book a call and continue to move down the sales process. And you would be amazed at how many leads respond after the 3rd or 4th attempt. They go, oh, hey, sorry, yes, I still need training. I've been dealing with XYZ. When can we talk? And so I can't stress the importance enough of following up with your leads persistently. This will make you so much more money from paid ads. The next thing we have here is skin in the game. So at this point, we have attracted high quality traffic from Google Ads. We are converting that high quality traffic into leads from our landing page. And then we are getting in contact with those leads from our text automations and our follow-up sequences. Now that we've gotten in contact with those leads, the next step of this system is to actually book an eval. So for this trainer, he required $150 for in-person evals with every client before getting started. Charging for evals ensured high show rates, and with high close rates as well of about 90%. So if you're charging for your evals, you can rest assured that vast majority of people are going to actually show up to those evals, and that there's a very high chance you're going to close them at the eval as well. Now, just to be clear, like free evals can absolutely work. And I know, some of you guys watching probably offer free evaluations, and they can absolutely work too. There's pros and cons to free evals, but if you're gonna run free evals, make sure that there's a penalty for no-shows or cancellations. The idea is to get some form of commitment from your leads, have them put some skin in the game. Because if you offer free evals and you don't require your client, or rather your lead, to put a card on file or anything, they have no skin in the game, and it's going to be very easy for them to back out or not show up at all to the evaluation. So to summarize everything we've covered so far in this video, we have the foundations, which is making sure you're determined to grow your business, having a willingness to invest, a capacity to grow. Make sure your programs are anywhere from $1,500 to $5,000. Be willing to spend at least $1,000 to $3,000 a month on paid ads. And ideally, you have a population size in your area of around 100,000 or more. Then the next thing we covered was systems thinking and understanding that your business is a system. And in order for you to close a client, you have to be able to book an eval. And in order for you to book an eval, you have to get in contact with a lead. And in order for you to get a lead, you have to have traffic coming in. And if any one of these stages or events is broken in your sales process, then your results will suffer greatly. So think about your business in systems and break it down into events like this and optimize each event for the next one, right? Each event is reliant on the previous one. optimize for stage progression. Then we covered quality, which was that there's two types of leads, low quality leads and high quality leads. And these leads exist on a continuum. And the big problem that most people run into is they lean too far on one side of the continuum, either getting way too many low quality leads or way too little high quality leads. And the goal is to capture as many high quality leads as possible. We talked about things like form friction on the landing page. We talked about things like avatar alignment on the landing page. And then we just covered lead management. And so really it just comes down to two things here. For the most part, it's call your leads quickly and follow up persistently. Then finally, we covered skin in the game. So this client was charging $150 for in-person evals. Those were required. And if you do offer free evals, make sure you have a penalty for no-shows or cancellations. And the idea here is to get some commitment from your leads, require them to put some skin in the game. So there you have it. That is how one of our clients was able to turn $35K into $391K. And if you implement the things that I covered in this video, I promise you will have a much better chance of getting great results from your paid ads. Now, of course, if you don't want to figure all this stuff out yourself and you want some help from us, feel free to click the link below where it will take you to a video of me pitching our services to you. And if you like the video enough, go ahead and consider booking a call and we'll get on a call and see if we're a good fit. Otherwise, if you don't want to be pitched, don't click the link below. And if you got any value from this video or if you have any questions, feel free to like the video and leave a comment below. And also, of course, subscribe to the channel because we are dropping the best quality content for dog trainers out of all of YouTube, and we will be dropping more. So if you want to see those videos in the future, consider subscribing. With that said, I'll see you guys in the next one.